Away for Mo'unga. Bowden Barrett goes wide. Lovely pass to Jordan. Almost broke the tackle. Then he went again. Well, Jordan. Oh my goodness. Aaron Smith. Unbelievable. Now it's coming again for Aaron Smith. Running hard as it will. Jordan once more. Pops it out to Taylor. Here is Frizell. Frizell. Oh my goodness.
Right. So with the Super Rugby Final this weekend, it means it's nearly time for the All Blacks first game of 2024, and of course the squad is due to be named the day after the Super Rugby Final. Correct me if I'm wrong there. We've been talking for months. I think this is the most widely anticipated All Blacks side in a while. Of course, you've got a new coach, Scott Robertson, new coaching trio. You've got likes of Leon McDonald, Jason Wright. Well, he's not really new, but yeah, I mean, take it as you will, Jason Holland. And so there has been a lot of intrigue. We're at the start of a new Rugby World Cup cycle. A lot of players have have left, to go and play overseas, and so there's certainly a lot of injury, and also at the same time you've got to consider there's been a couple of injuries. So after much. I've sort of done videos over the last couple of months, thinking who might be wingers and all that, the positions of interest. So, and now I can finally put my tip for what I think will be Scott Robertson's first ever All Blacks side. So I think firstly we've got to address a couple of things. Size of the squad firstly. So it is expected 32 players are expected to be named. This will be the squad to play the first two tests against England in Dunedin and Auckland in Park, and Fiji in San Diego. A fresh side will be named for the Rugby Championship after that, depending on what happens here. And we are expecting an 18-14 split. That's 18 forwards and 14 backs. I don't need to explain why that's the case. Secondly, injuries, and I guess we should also injuries. Which I should probably name who is questionable. So we're thinking Samisoni Takiaho, the Chiefs hooker. He of course limped out of the semi-final against the Canes. He's a bit of a question mark. Should be expected back for the Rugby Championship. Josh Lord, unfortunately, he's had his injury setbacks. He's not quite been able to make it back, so he's not. Again, hopefully, he might come back for the Rugby Championship, but he would have to really make his comeback in club rugby. Fabian Holland, who's been very, very impressive. Sorry, I've jumped the gun there. Fabian Holland is ineligible still, but watch the space. Sorry, I jumped the gun there. He's not injured. And of course, it goes to the backs. Cam Roigard is expected to be sidelined until the end of the year. Should make his comeback in the NPC for counties if his recovery goes well. By the way, check out the What a Lad podcast. Excellent interview there with James Marshall and Cam Roigard there. And of course, finally, Will Jordan. Again, similar boat. Maybe back for the end of year tour. We shall see. And also finally, I think we should really talk about, just clarity on who's not going to be available. I'm going to be just talking about players who've, pretty much effectively cut ties with New Zealand rugby. That's your Richie Mo'ungas, Lester Faianuku, Nipo Laulala, Brodie Retallick, Sam Whitelock. Really should put Richie McCaw, because at some stage it seemed like Scott Robertson was talking to every single ex-Crusader All Black to come back. Brodie Retallick, Sam Whitelock, they're out, and Richie Mo'unga we know is overseas, despite all the talks about him coming back to New Zealand rugby. And and I did talk about Fabian Holland being ineligible. So here we go. Let's go to the squad. So my 18 forwards, so we're going to always have 3 hookers. As I said, Sami Sani is not questionable, so I think that pretty much confirms Cody Taylor will be the first choice. And I think behind him, Asafo Omu was very, very impressive comeback this season. Of course, people forget that he was an All Black at one stage, but due to fitness, health concerns, he hasn't been picked. But Asafo Omu has really, really made a comeback this season. His lineup has been excellent, and and of course he's always had been that barnstorming hooker. And I think so. Asafo Omu will be the number 2 in my opinion, and has a chance to push Cody Taylor for the first choice hooker jersey. And behind him, I guess, that opens the door now with Samuel Soni's absence. Could this be Ricky Telly's best chance to make the All Blacks? Perhaps. He's been very, very good for the Blues, but I wouldn't write off George. I mean, Ricky Telly's age might count against him, and so could, I guess, again, we're not wanting to pick, to lean on Scott Robertson's Crusaders links, but could the young George Bell perhaps be considered as a third hooker? I guess the third hooker, you probably look, unless Omua or Taylor's injured, you probably, this is sort of like a position. It's sort of like a apprenticeship sort of position. So maybe George Belt might be more appropriate than Riccitelli, but it has to be said though, Riccitelli doesn't make this All Black side, he's never going to make it. 5 props, so 2, your tight hits would be Fletcher Newell, Tamaiti Williams. Look, Crusaders are haven't had the best, Tamaiti Williams, and he's had his injuries, but I think Tamaiti Williams will be there. And then your loose hits, Ethan de Groot, I think is the number 1 prop. He's pretty much now, I think he's pretty much entered that category where he, you expect the Groot's name to be there. And I think he'll be accompanied by Aiden Ross, who, look, I think that when he got first picked by the All Blacks against that Ireland series, I think he was always going to be onto a hiding for nothing, but he's really come back, he's had a superb season, Richie. So Aiden Ross for me will be the other loose hit. And Ofa Tungafasi, who continues to Mr. Dependable now, can cover both sides of the prop. So he's signed on to New Zealand Rugby till 2026. So he is in there. But 4 locks, Scott Barrett, that's a no-brainer. Look, he's had his injuries, but he has to be in there. Tupou Vaa'i, who is the Chiefs Player of the Year and has made a stellar comebacks. Of course, had that injuries. He's had a couple of issues as well off field, but look, Vai's been sensational this season. He has to be in there. Chiefs Player of the Year, by the way. And that leads, I guess, lock's going to be quite interesting there. This is going to be a real test of depth. No Brodie Retallick, Sam Whitelock to pick from for the first time in probably a good decade or so. And so, you've got to, and I should mention Patrick Tuipulotu's injured, so I've got to mention him in the injury list. So that means there's an opportunity here. Quentin Strange, I think, will take the other locking position. With the experience there, and he hasn't put a foot wrong. And I'm gonna pick Sam Derry as a new cap there. Sam Derry's been one of the standouts for the Blues. The Blues, for me, that forward pack's been absolutely outstanding. Sam Derry's been one of the standouts, especially with Tuipulotu out. And I think he could be one of the new caps in this All Black side. And then, of course, your Lucy's. So Sam Cane, I think he'll be picked. There's no reason not to pick him. I think. I know that he's said he's going to retire at the end of the season, but I don't think Scott Robertson would be picking him just for the goodwill factor. I think he will get in there. Whether he starts will be a different question. Luke Jacobson's been outstanding. He's got to be in the All Blacks. So is Dalton Papali'i. So I think they will be in there. And of course, Papali'i and Jacobson can play blindside. So, and if then Ardie Savea will be in. Even with having spent that time with Japan alongside with Sam Cane, and Ethan Blackadder will has that ability to play 7 as well and blindside, so he's got to be in there. And my final pick, it's got to be Hoskins Tutu. He's been the number 8 of the season for me. And again, another outstanding comeback. Last season we were talking that Tutu's All Black career was sort of the end, but he's sort of done a bit like a Ma'anonu Piriwipu, and he's really come back absolutely stronger than ever. So those are my 18 forwards for the All Blacks. And so we go 14 backs. Look, in the past we've got name specialists, but there's not really any. I mean, apart from halfback and those are the really only halfback's really the only specialist position nowadays. So we just name 14 backs nowadays just to make it easier. And you've got your 3 halfbacks. I think Finley Christie will be. It'll be harsh if Finley Christie was to miss out. I mean, he's had his. I mean, he may not win over lots of people. He's solid, but I mean, with the experience, given Nagi's not in there, you're gonna need that experience in Finley Christie. And I think the 2 halfbacks. Look, this is gonna be. I think Cortez Ratima has done enough to get in, and he's been someone that they've blooded for a long time, so he's got to get in. I guess the 3rd position is going to be interesting. Do you go for the exciting but perhaps still inconsistent Fakatava, or do you go for the experience in TJ Perenara? Look, I love TJ Perenara very much, and I think he's done well to come back. But I think, if you have Finley Christie in there, you've got all the experience there. And I'm not sure Perenara's quite done enough to get back into the All Blacks side. And so I'm going to go with Fakatava. Look, I mean, every time Fakatava's been on the field, the Highlanders' backs has been electric. And he's not expected to be the number 1 halfback. I think Christie, if you have Christie in there, Fakatava will come off the bench for impact. So that's all you need, I think. So I think for me, Fakatava just gets ahead of TJ Perenara. And then we get to the utility positions, really. I mean, so your Damian McKenzie with number 10. Of course, he can play fullback, same as Bolden Barrett. I think Madimak will be number 10. Bolden Barrett will be 15. Of course, no Will Jordan, so that will be the case. And then Perifetta to cover both Barrett or McKenzie off the bench. Your 12, I think Geordie Barrett will be the number 12. Although I think there's still criticism on whether he is the best number 12 given the type of player he is. But, I think at this stage you have him at number 12. And then, you have Anton Leonard-Brown as an option at 12 or 13. Same with David Havili. Look, I think Havili will be in there even though if he's had that injury concerns and perhaps isn't quite the player that, you'd expect. But I think you have David Havili in there. I think Scott Robertson can get the best out of him. If there's sort of one player, I think, perhaps maybe from an, well, you could argue from a reputation point of view, I think just more the fact that Robertson knows how to get the best out of Havili. So if he's fit, I think you get Havili in there. And Rico Ioane is the center, and of course can play wing, but he's mainly in there as a center. So, and then your outside backs, Emoni Narawa has had an outstanding season. So it's Sevu Reece, they'll be my 4 wingers, and along with Mark Talia. And I think you'd have Caleb Clark in there, just ahead of Sean. I'm not sure. Look, I know they've been clamoring for Sean Stevenson for years, but I don't think I think he's sort of had a bit of he's taken a step back this season, Sean Stevenson, and I think, if Stevenson couldn't get in last season at the best of form, I think his chances of getting in are lesser this year. So those are my 14 backs, and those are my 18 forwards. So I'm going to just end the video right here. What are your thoughts? I'd like to hear your thoughts on what the All Blacks 32 will be, who misses out, and who gets in. If you like this video, feel free to like, and don't forget to subscribe, and we shall see how far off I am when the squad's eventually named later this weekend.